Hi there, this is Andy, the Suffolk Audiophile. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to do part 6 of my vinyl A to Z. Today we're covering R through to T. We've got a few to get through, so without further ado, I'm going to crack on with this. So the first record I want to talk about, which was high on my wants list when I started recollecting vinyl, is this record, Lou Reed, Transformer. Now, I went through 2 or 3 copies of this when I first got back into vinyl a few years back. This is the only copy I now own. I did have an original Dynaflex. I had an 80s reissue. This is the Speaker's Corner on the RCA label. For those of you that don't know, Speaker's Corner are an audiophile record pressing company out of Germany. This is by far the best version of Transformer I've ever heard. The bass on this goes through the floor. It is so huge and deep. It's monumental, the bass on this. The stereo separation is brilliant. The soundstage is phenomenal. This was cut from the original analog master tapes. It's an absolute winner. If you want a decent copy of Lou Reed's Transformer, this is the one to get, Speaker's Corner. They do reissue it every so often. It runs at around about 30 euros, I think, from Germany. You can't buy direct from Speaker's Corner. You can get it through Acoustic Sound's website in America. I think I got mine. I think I got this from them actually when I bought it. But anyway, yeah, Lou Reed Transformer, excellent. The next one is another Lou Reed song album. My second favourite Lou Reed album is Berlin. This particular pressing is an original pressing from when it was pressed 73, crikey. This is on Dynaflex. This is the second copy of this that I've owned. I had another copy of this which was an original pressing. It had a jump in it, of the skip in the track Kids. I then bought this from another person in America. I got it shipped over, and this is pretty much pristine, as new as it can be. It's in immaculate condition. It sounds phenomenal for a 73 pressing. It's got some great musicians on it. It's just a great album. Yeah, Berlin. One of it wasn't a very, very good follow up to Transformer. Everyone was really banging on about how brilliant Transformer was. So when this came out in '73, it sort of it was looked upon as a bit lackluster compared to Transformer, which was obviously the height of Lou Reed's output. But for me personally, this album's absolutely phenomenal. I love the album. I love pretty much every track on it. The Bed still sends chills down my spine when I hear that. Sad Song is still a brilliant song. Yeah, great album, Berlin, Lou Reed. Right, the next one is a pretty much a no-brainer, really, for any record collector that's fairly serious about it. And that's this one, Never Mind the Bollocks, Here's the Sex Pistols. This was a high on my wants list to get, because it's a classic album. I think most self-respecting audiophiles need a copy of this in their collection. This is the 30th anniversary version. This is a repress of the way it was originally issued. So, as you probably know, later issues of this album had track Submission included on the record. But when they issued it to begin with, Submission was left out, and it was offered as an extra single-sided 7-inch with the album. So this comes with the 7-inch single, which is single-sided. It's got Submission on it. It's on the Virgin label. I've reproduced the original Virgin label from the 70s. It's 180 gram vinyl. It's a good sounding pressing. It's a digital transfer. It's not all analog. I don't think it suffers for it really. But this also comes with the poster. First pressings also came with a poster. This has got a reproduction of the poster in it, along with the 7-inch single. So this is quite a pretty good package actually. You can still buy this on Discogs, sealed for about 30 or 40 quid at the time of filming this video. So yeah, a classic album, a really good album. One hit wonder, yeah, maybe, but God, did it shift, people's thoughts on what music was at the time. Sex Pistols, bollocks. So after the Pistols, in the early 80s, I was into the post-punk, new wave, Joy Division, that sort of thing. I was getting into the goth bands like Bauhaus and obviously Susie and the Banshees. Now this is the Banshees' debut album, The Scream. I love this album. This was introduced to me by a good friend of mine, Gary, years and years ago, many years ago, in the early 80s. So when I bought this in the 80s, I bought a repress. This is a first pressing. It sounds great. It's obviously all analog. There's no digital involved in this. It's got some great tracks on it. The only one that I'm a bit iffy about is the Beatles cover that's on here, Helter Skelter. They do a cover of Helter Skelter. Not really one of my favourites. It's okay. It's okay. This wasn't my favourite lineup of the Banshees. I love this album, but back in the day, I was a huge John McGeoch fan, and he replaced. I can't remember the guitarist's name on this album, but John McGeoch replaced this guy after he left. And I think anything that John McGeoch did with the Banshees is absolutely stellar. It's up there. It's just brilliant. But as a debut album, this was a no-brainer for me. I had to get it. It's a great record. So you can still pick this up fairly reasonably cheap, £20 used, VG plus. As I've said before, when I buy vinyl off Discogs, I generally go for near mint only on vinyl, VG plus as a minimum on the jacket. And this is no exception. It's probably a VG plus jacket. The record is near mint, so it sounds really, really good. The next one, the natural progression from The Scream was, as I said, I really like the John McGeoch era Banshees. So I bought this. Now, this is the singles, Once Upon a Time, the singles. This features a lot of John McGeoch on it. It's got a lot of tracks from the first couple of albums, Scream and Join Hands on here, but it's got an awful lot from the McGeoch era. This is on clear vinyl, and this is an Abbey Road half-speed master. I'll just put this out there. The Abbey Road half-speed masters have been getting a bad rap on YouTube by a few YouTubers. They're not all perfect. This sounds actually quite good, even though it's a digital transfer. It does sound really quite good, to be honest, and to be fair. So I think they've done a good job with this. I'm well aware that there's some issues with some of the other half-speed masters. They don't sound as good as the originals. We may cover that in a later video, but you know, the jury's out on some of them. I need to invest in a few more before I can draw a judgment, really. But this is a really good one. I like this record. I play it quite frequently. You know, it's got Spellbound on it, A Happy House, Christine, all the classic McGeoch era tracks, plus Jigsaw Feeling, Hong Kong Garden from the earlier lineup of the Banshees. This is a good record. It's still available. You can probably buy it from Abbey Road's website. I think it probably goes for about £25, something like that. Banshees. Right, so there's a bit of a story behind this next one, and it's a good story. I wanted to rebuy I used to love the Stranglers, and it was obviously top of my list was to replace a lot of Stranglers records that I loved and that I got rid of back in the early O's when I sold my record collection. My favourite Stranglers album, I have two actually, Rattus Norvegicus, the first album, which I haven't got. I'm still itchy nose. I'm still on the market for a copy of that, but I'm quite specific in what I want, and I haven't found one at the right price yet. And the Raven's up there as one of my favourite Stranglers albums. So it was a no-brainer that I was going to seek out the Raven on Discogs, and I found a copy of the Raven, near mint condition vinyl, near mint condition cover, the 3D cover, the first pressing, with the withdrawn inner sleeve, and it was up for £40. And I thought, great, I'll get that. So I bought it, and this arrived. Notice anything wrong with it? Yes, it's not 3D. When it arrived, I noticed it was not 3D, and the guy had advertised it as the 3D cover. So I was not best pleased. I did a quick search on Discogs to see what the prices of the standard ones were, and they weren't much different. They were about 35, 40 quid. So I thought, you know what? The record's in immaculate condition. It is as described, apart from lacking the 3D cover. I'll keep it, but I did email the seller and say, you know, you've stitched me up here. You need to make sure that you are advertising it correctly. Anyway, great album. I listened to this and loved it, but I wanted a 3D cover. And anyway, I'm on the Rager Turntables Facebook group, and one day I was chatting to a few people on there, and I mentioned the fact that I had been stitched up on Discogs with a copy of the Raven, and one of the gentlemen on there said, I've got a copy of that. I only ever played it twice, didn't really like it, so I filed it away, and it's never been on my turntable since. And I said, is it 3D? And he said, yes, and it's got the withdrawn inner sleeve. And I went, right, okay, how much do you want for it? And he said, oh, don't worry about it. Give me your address and I'll send it to you. I just want to see it go to a good home. And I said, well, you know, let me at least pay for the postage. And he wouldn't even have that. So about 4 or 5 days later, this arrived. And if I said to you, this looks like it's just come out of the shop, would you believe me? I shit you not. This is as new as you can get. It is exactly as he described. It's got the withdrawn in the sleeve. It's got the 3D cover. It is in immaculate condition. It's got obviously the original label, the original matrix numbers. Everything stacks up. I got this for free off of someone on a Raider group who just wanted to thin down his record collection and see it go to a good home. there are some good people out there. I offered him money for it. He wouldn't accept it. He wouldn't take it. He just wanted my address. So I gave it to him. But, you know, if you're watching this video, thank you for that. I really appreciate it. I'm really pleased to have both copies in my collection. They're both identical, except for the cover. Okay. But yeah, I was over the moon. So yeah, The Raven, a brilliant album. Um, Worth checking out. It's about time. I think, thinking about it, this would make a good record store day release. A reissue of the 3D cover, and you know, in a limited quantity. I think it'd be a good RSD release. What do you think? Right. So going on with my A to Z, we're on to T, and one of my favourite bands of the 80s was and still is Tears for Fears. And again, another no-brainer record which I wanted was The Hurting by Tears for Fears. This is their debut album. Um, this is a classic album. You can pick these up for £20 on Discogs, VG Plus condition. It sounds great. You know, it's all analog. You know, you just can't go wrong. 1983. This is a brilliant album. They did reissue it. I've not heard the reissue. I suspect it will be quite a dynamic sounding reissue. I suspect it would be cut quite hot, like a lot of reissues are nowadays. But this sounds really, really good. It's worth checking out if you like Tears for Fears and you've never heard their early stuff. I suspect you probably will have, but you know, this was a no-brainer. The Hurting, Tears for Fears. It's got Mad World, Pale Shelter. All the classics are on this, all the early classics anyway. After I bought that, I followed it up with The Seeds of Love. This is a really, really good pop album. Obviously, a heavy Beatles influence in sowing the seeds of love. I think Roland Orzabal freely admits that he rips off I Am the Walrus on that song, but what an album this is. This has got some really good musicians on it. Women in Chains, you've got Phil Collins on drums. Famous Last Words, you've got Simon Phillips. I think Simon Phillips is on a few of the tracks on this, actually. One of my favourite drummers, actually. But yeah, obviously Alita Adams is on this. Brilliant singer, great pianist. She obviously accompanied them on the Seeds of Love tour in '89. And as an aside, if you probably know by now, I'm a musician, and I remember back in 1990, I bought an amplifier from my local record store called Monkey Business. I was on the market at that time for a Roland JC120, and I bought this amplifier from Monkey Business, and it was at that time afterwards that the owner of the shop told me that the amp had been used by Roland on the Seeds of Love tour. And you can actually see the amplifier that I bought in the Nebworth concert footage of Tears for Fears when they'd done the Nordorf Robbins concert. That's a bit of an aside there, but I was well chuffed to get that amplifier. It's long gone now, I sold it. But yeah, The Seeds of Love, Tears for Fears, brilliant album, really, really good sounding album on the Fontana label. Brilliant record. I've only got three more. This is a great album, this next one. We've already covered Matt Johnson in one of the previous videos, but this is The Infected. This is my favourite album of theirs. I wanted it after I saw the mini film. There's a mini video of the album. I think it covers all the tracks on the album. It's like a mini epic film, and it's an absolutely brilliant film. Um, this has got some great tracks on it. It's got some really good artists on it. You've got Steve Hogarth of Marillion on this on keyboards. You've got Naina Cherry on backing vocals on this. You've got oh god, I think you've got Dave Palmer from ABC playing drums on this as well. This is an absolutely stonking album. Um, is it as good as Soul Mining? I think so. Soul Mining's a great album, but I think this is the album that started to put the on the map. Um, I believe this is the rare cover. I don't know. This is they call this the torture cover. There was another cover which was a cartoon type cover that had been designed by Matt Johnson's brother. Um, but yeah, the Infected, brilliant record, sounds great. It's got some good tracks on it. Right, this has literally just had a re-release in the last couple of weeks, and that's this record here by Toyah. Now, Toyah is of her time. You know, she in the late 70s and early 80s, I think, when she was on the Safari label, um, and Toyah was an actual band and not just her. They were great. This is Toyah, the band. This was released after her first two records, Sheep Farming in Barnet and Blue Meaning. This was the tour that followed those two records. This is the classic Toyah lineup, and it is a really good recording. This was actually the soundtrack to an ATV documentary, which I think, if you buy the recent reissue, which obviously is a digital transfer, but if you buy the recent reissue, it comes with a DVD of the original documentary, which features all these songs in it live, obviously. This is a great record if you like Toyah. It's very well recorded. It's not audiophile by any stretch of the imagination, but for a time capsule of a period in time, this brings back so many memories for me. So it was a no-brainer from a memory lane perspective. I love listening to this record. Aya is great. Danced is absolutely fantastic. I remember sitting down as a young guitarist in the early 80s, sitting there learning dance and thinking, crikey, this is an odd timing. I don't know how to do this. Learning odd meter at that time was quite hard for me, but this is a great record. Yeah, Toyah. Then we come to the last one in today's video. Back in the 80s, there was a collective called This Mortal Coil, and basically they were a collective of musicians that released records through 4AD, and they pulled on different artists from the 4AD catalogue to contribute to different recordings. And back in the early 80s, this came out, which is Song to the Siren by This Mortal Coil. So this is a double. I look at this as a double A side. So the first side is Song to the Siren, which is a reworking of the song by Tim Buckley. And the B side is 16 Days Gathering Dust, which is a track by Modern English, and it features the Cocteau Twins on guitar and vocals. Plus, you've got Mick Conroy, and I think you've got Gary McDowell from Modern English on it as well. This is a great record. Liz Fraser's voice is on another planet. She has a voice that is very hard to describe. All I can say is it's a beautiful voice. You can't always understand what she's saying or singing, I think that's half the attraction with her. The Cocktail Twins, another band that I love. But yeah, this Mortal Coil song to the siren. So that's it for this week. Next week we'll be doing U to V. Um, I'm also taking delivery this week of a copy of Unknown Pleasures, which is a first pressing, so I can start doing my shootout video or filming that next week. I've started working on that already. I'm looking forward to doing that. Got quite a lot of information to share through that video. I'm looking forward to actually finishing the A to Z because there's other areas that I want to talk about and other things I want to discuss. So with that aside, click like and subscribe, hit the bell button, etc. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Cheers. Bye.